All right, this episode is a little unhinged. We are covering the biggest mistakes that buyers and sellers are making in 2026, how to actually put faith in your business. And wait, we're helping Emily find a husband. Welcome back to All God's Grace. Cannot wait to dive into the material today. So, yeah, let's get into it. If you're here for real estate, faith, or a little chaos, you're definitely in the right place. Emily will choose to go on a date or to not go on a date by the time we are done with this podcast. Emily, welcome to the show. I've got a little gift for you for coming on
Oh
today.
my gosh, a gift.
So
Thank you.
She was making fun of me for being over caffeinated, but now you can join.
Now I've got my own beverage. You're so thoughtful. All the essentials. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I just think so much of you, Kendra, as a friend, a real estate agent, a wife, a mom. So I'm truly honored to be here. First time. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah. So I definitely want to talk a little bit about who you are in the real estate space. A lot of people that found this podcast know that I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Consultants, top 5%, but you are kind of the big authority in Bexley, not just in Central Ohio, but definitely in Bexley. So tell us a little bit about your background with real estate, and then we'll dive into the mistakes.
Yeah, well, thanks for the introduction. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Emily Tatman, and I'm a real estate expert here in Central Ohio, just like Kendra, but I tend to focus on the Bexley area. I own a real estate team called the Firm Foundation Co., and our values are being empathetic, steadfast, and fun. So we really try and live and walk those out daily, and we do have a lot of fun doing it along the way.
I just want to add the way that this podcast came about. When I originally was thinking about starting a podcast, it was never meant to be real estate. It was Jesus, faith. And one of the first people that I reached out to was Emily, because she really truly does embody Christ-like values. And I'm so happy that you're here today. So let's dive right into real estate. And there's so many things and places we could go regarding mistakes that people make, but definitely in 2026, we're in a new market, a huge shift in 2025 with lawsuits and inventory and just the way the world was shifting. So the first mistake that I want to get into, and Emily, we'll go back and forth here, but is waiting for rates to drop. And on the buyer side, I actually just went back through my Instagram this morning. On February 26th, interest rates were 6%. Yesterday, they were 6.6%. So we're almost a full percentage up in a 1-month time frame. So I think the misconception mistake that a lot of people make is trying to time the market with where the rates are. Last year, the big phrase was marry the house, date the rate. And I don't love that phrase, but it's kind of accurate. You can always refinance. So are you getting a lot of that from your buyers in the market, or sellers not wanting to sell because of the rates? What have you heard on that?
Yeah, I think on both sides. I mean, I don't love that little saying either, but it does have some truth to it. I really am big on education. So whether it's a buyer or seller, but on the buy side, really just teaching them that, interest rates are always going to go up and down. They're not going to be constant. And it's something that, we have some indicators we can look at to see which direction they're headed, but there's no real certainty there. But at least in our market here in Central Ohio, the one thing that we do know is that home prices and values are going to continue to increase. So instead of trying to time things out based upon what interest rates are doing, when you could have entered the game and made a purchase earlier, what you would have gained already in equity is probably going to far outweigh the savings and the little bit of a difference maybe the interest rate made.
I love that you just said that, because appreciation in, let's say, 2020 to 2021, didn't we see a crazy surge of almost 10% appreciation in Central Ohio?
Central Ohio is a super strong market,
Yeah.
so yeah, and real estate's hyper local, right? So
Yeah.
depending even on what neighborhood specifically
Right.
within Central Ohio, but yes, very strong market here in Columbus continues to climb and grow. So safe for investments, safe for purchases. So I know it's hard; everyone's hung up on the rates, but I say let's not focus so much on the rate. Let's focus on equity. Let's focus on your monthly payment, making sure
Yeah.
you're comfortable. But the rate's the rate, and there's not much. Unfortunately, I can't wave a magic wand and do anything about the rate. So
But you would if you could.
it is what it is. Yep.
Well, I think so the takeaway there is that really what you said, home prices are going up. Appreciation stands at that average 4% year over year, with the exception of the surge right after or kind of during COVID when the rates were 3%. But take us into number two. What's our number two mistake?
Yes. Number 2 mistake, for me, I think, is not interviewing your agent. So, obviously, buying or selling real estate is, a huge financial decision. It's one of the biggest purchases and sales you'll probably make in your life. And so, choosing a real estate agent wisely, I think, is so important. And I think outside of just the normal things like interviewing them, reading reviews, right? Looking at their production, what have they done in the past? I think also asking some personal questions, talking about values a little bit, like who is this person? Because the reality is you're going to be spending a lot of time together, and could potentially be in some stressful situations. And
Right.
you want to make sure that you're working with someone who kind of aligns with your values, and also that that when things get tough, will really be that rock and that advocate for you and have the knowledge and know how to get you from point A to point B.
I really love this one because you hit the nail on the head. You could potentially be spending a lot of time, especially if you're a buyer. And if on the seller side, it takes a moment for your property to sell. I think we were at 49 average days on the market when the last Columbus Board of Realtors data came out. What, maybe 3 weeks ago at this point? But you're at least, so let's say you prep your house for a month, then you've got another month. That's still 60 days where you're going to be in constant contact with your realtor. And values, strategy, you want to make sure that you're on the same page. And another trend that happens in real estate when the market is really hot, I just saw this the other day, the entry of new realtors increases. And then in a down market, when there's less closings, there's less realtors entering the field. But we're coming off of the hottest market in Central Ohio from those 3% interest rates.
Yeah.
So right now there are a ton of realtors. What's the average realtor sell? 1 to 4 houses a year.
Yeah, not very much. And it kind of leads into another point that just came to mind when you were saying that is everybody knows like 1 to 3 realtors, right? And a lot of times they're a family, a friend, a cousin, an aunt, an uncle. And that can be tricky because how do you choose? And you don't want to disappoint a family or friend. But again, like, this is business, and should something go awry during the situation, unfortunately, if that's a friend or family member, that can become really uncomfortable. Whereas if you're working with a professional, someone maybe who's outside of those personal relationships, can actually be a little bit easier. I also just think this one's important because me personally, I have had the honor of working with a lot of clients who actually have started with another realtor and then for one reason or another it didn't work out. And so now they've ended up working with me. So I do just think asking the questions up front, getting clarity can save you some time and probably ultimately some money in the long run.
I think just to close this one, I really love using AI. Whatever AI host, that's a really great platform to say, what should I ask or what should I ask a realtor when I'm interviewing for a buyer's agent or a seller's agent? And then don't always pick the first one if the vibe isn't there. If you don't feel a good connection, interview another one. I really like that one. Number three, this is one where I really dug my heels in the last 2 years. And that is mistake number three, not looking at new builds. Builders are negotiating cost, incentives, rates. Those are the big three things. And especially in Central Ohio, because we have had such low inventory, like record low inventory in the last 5 or 6 years, new builds are an opportunity where you don't have to compete because there is a lot of inventory. And not only that, builders from multi-production to custom, even custom builds in Evans Farm, they were offering, I swear it was 3.99 with a partner lender at Evans Farm, new builds. And it might have been 4.99. But either way, that's insane. But even down to your production builders or Miranda, MI Homes, Fisher, they have fantastic incentives, like $40,000 credit on upgrades. And you never know when those incentives are going to happen, but that's another benefit of working with a seasoned agent is we are with builders on a regular basis, or we've got them in our phone and we always know who's got incentives and where. So definitely mistake is not checking out new builds. Do you have anything on that?
So I couldn't agree more. I think it's
Mhm.
a great option. Definitely lots of incentives and, promotions available there. I think tying off of that, another mistake tied to that is not looking at new construction with a licensed agent. Please do not go into a model home without representation, without your agent. We would be happy to go with you. You are never wasting our time. And we love our builder partners, but let us introduce you to them. And gosh, we could really talk. There's probably a whole nother episode, but yeah, we would be happy to go with you. We definitely want to show you all your options, but don't go in alone.
To piggyback, I think
It's a hot topic.
I think the misconception though, Emily, is that if you go in without a realtor, and this doesn't always, it's not always intentional. You just walk into the open house. But what happens if somebody is knowingly going into an open house at a new construction development, they sometimes have this perception that they get a discount because they're not bringing a realtor. And I have a real live story for this. I have a dear client who just moved to the Carolinas, and she unequivocally will only work with me. She will only work with me. I sold her house here for some years ago, and she said, I'm not working with anybody here. And I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be hard because I'm not licensed there. I am not able to practice there, but I can refer an agent there that can help us write the offer. So she started going into new builds and decided she wanted one of these properties. So I called the builder direct and I said, hey, we don't have a local agent there. And they were like, it's already baked into the price. Just go ahead and call somebody and add, a local agent to the transaction. So there's no savings. It's already rolled into the purchase price. So I don't know, just
Yeah.
one
And
of the
bottom line, you need
misconceptions.
representation. We love our builder reps. They are amazing, but they are representing the builder. So we want to make sure that you're protected as the buyer as well and that your rights are covered. And yes, we would be happy to help you with that.
The
Yes,
reps.
we love our
We
builder
love them.
partners and our builder partners love us. But yes, just don't go in alone.
All right, round us off. Mistake
Yeah.
number.
Mistake number 4 is assuming that you need 20% down to buy a house, which honestly is kind of crazy to me because in my 15 years of selling real estate, I'd say there's maybe only a handful of situations where that typically happens. I mean, sometimes you'll have an all cash purchase where someone does end up putting 20% down. But I know everyone thinks rates are super high, but relatively speaking, they're kind of where they should be over time. And maybe keeping some of your cash a little more liquid isn't a bad thing. I think when people think about having to put 20% down, something that comes up a lot is having to pay PMI. But one thing I always go back to in the Columbus market is that our market is appreciating so quickly that PMI doesn't stick around forever,
What
right?
is PMI for those that don't know? What is it?
Oh, it's private mortgage insurance. Yes. So if you put less than 20% down, your lender's going to require you to pay some insurance on the loan. But again, that does not stick around forever. It will fall off when you reach a certain loan to value. So that's why I go back to that equity piece. Once you're home, it doesn't take long here in the Columbus market, especially if you can do a project or two, reach back out to your realtor, and that will fall off. Going back to not having to put 20% down, there's so many loan products out there, all sorts of grants, down payment assistance that actually I have clients all the time that finance 100% of the loan and either don't have to bring any money to closing or sometimes even get money back, which is rare, but does happen.
I think I've had 2 clients get money back at closing in the last 3 years. So it definitely happens. And there are a lot of specialty loans out there. One that I just heard of recently is called Addy. And it's if you're selling in a certain zip code and buying in the certain zip code, it's another grant that you can add to it. And there are definitely instances where you can stack these different programs. So going back to not interviewing your realtor and not taking a realtor with you to a new build, you need to have a realtor that understands how these loans come into play and has a good book of several different lenders because not every lender has the same loan products.
That's right.
All right, everybody. Well, we just talked about some money, and now we're going to talk about something deeper. Emily and I were talking last week about what we were going to bring onto the show. She said, "People always ask me how to put faith in your business." And I thought to myself, that's a great topic because here I am with all God's grace. And I definitely started sharing that on my real estate platforms. Tell us a little bit about how you weave that into your business. I know firm foundation is, I mean, that's pretty loud.
Yeah. So we can start there with the name of my company, the Firm Foundation Co. It definitely is just, I feel like a perfect blend between my faith and then also real estate and what we do. So I really, I say the Lord gave me that name. I don't think I could have come up with that on my own. But yeah, it's basically just about our values, going back to our values being empathetic, steadfast, and fun. And I just think that when you build anything in your life, whether it's your business, your relationships on the firm foundation that is Jesus Christ, you are truly unshakable, right? And there's the verse in Matthew that says that, you're like the wise man who built his house on a rock. The storms are going to come, the crazy stuff is going to happen, but yeah, you will not be moved. And so I think to just really keep that in mind in my business, but also in relationships and just anything that, when you truly build on that foundation that no one can take from you, it just gives you this confidence, that only could come from God.
I love that so much. So I know so I've talked about this in the first episode of the podcast where the Charlie Kirk incident just shook me to my core. And for weeks, I just tried to find where my voice was supposed to go and what was I supposed to do with those feelings that it created. And I've said it before, but I was talking to my friend Kevin and I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to do a podcast and I'm going to name it All God's Grace." And we were just bouncing ideas off of each other. And he asked me, "Aren't you afraid to lose some clients by leading with that?" And I said, "That might happen, but knowing that I'm leading with my heart and with what I truly believe in, maybe I'll get a few clients that appreciate that and align with that." So I know you mentioned that people have asked you that. So what's your response?
Yeah, I think for me, just being true to who I am and to my faith, I always go back to like Romans 1:16, like I will not be ashamed of the gospel, just because there's so much good and there's salvation for everyone in that. But yeah, I think just being authentic and knowing that, there's like what 9 or 10,000 realtors in Columbus and just over a million people, I think somewhere in Metro Columbus, something like that. And I can't possibly help all of them. And I'm just okay knowing that the clients who want to work with me because of who I am. And there may be people that don't want to work with me because of that. And that's okay. And just like there might be clients that want to work with you, Kendra, and they're like, there's no way I'd want to work with Emily Tatman, but Kendra's our girl and vice versa. Right. So I just think, you can never go wrong just like being true and just genuinely authentic.
Love that. All right. Well, it is definitely time to move on. Pausing for a moment to tell you about Nutrition Collaborative, registered dietitian Alec Moore. If you've been around for a minute, you know that he is my trusted dietitian. He helps my husband and I with our food and our fitness. I think I'm on year 7 with him, and I am just recently down 13 pounds, 2.5 pounds a month for 6 months. So that feels really good, but follow the bottom of the show notes to reach out to Alec and his team to see how you can get started. In the meantime, we're back.
We
And
are
if you've
back.
made it this far in the podcast, we're here. We are here. It is time to deep dive into Emily's personal life, her love life. Are you ready? Let's talk about what's going on in your life right now in this season of dating.
Yes. So I am single, which I think is really interesting because I actually get that misconception a lot. Everyone's like, oh, I just assumed you were in a relationship or married. So for the record, I am very single.
Today.
Yes, at this moment, at the time of recording. But I've been in a season of singleness, I'd say for like the last 5 years. My last serious relationship was about 5 years ago. And since then, God has just done amazing things in my life. I mean, obviously, I do desire a husband and a family, and we're going to get to that, towards the end. But I just can't discount like the season of singleness. And if you truly steward your season of singleness well, just the amazing things that God can do. You guys may not know me well, but I've been able to travel. I've been able to go on mission trips. I've been able to really pour into my business and am so thankful to have a successful business. I just think about all the things that maybe, I couldn't have done if I had been in a relationship or in a marriage sooner. So it's kind of like the grass is greener on the other side. Like I have a lot of people that say, my gosh, you have this amazing life. Like you spent all this time in the Dominican Republic and oh my gosh, and I'm like, well, I think you have this amazing life, like you have, amazing family, a husband, kids, like, so comparison can really be a thief of joy, right? So I have really leaned into my single season and just enjoyed it. And I'm still enjoying it. Even now at this moment, I feel like the Lord has called me into like a season of active dating, which I'm excited about. Still just, remembering his goodness and like all the good things that are going on in my life now. I think is so important, not getting too far ahead and, also not neglecting looking back and realizing that, I'm living today in some prayers that, answered prayers from before. So I think just like keeping all of that in perspective is super important. But yes, in this season of my life, I am dating, which is fun, crazy, exciting, nerve-wracking, all the feelings, right?
So, congratulations on this season. I recently heard on a podcast snippet, it was Stephen Furtick, Elevation Worship. And specifically in regards to dating, he was saying the standards you set equal the value you ascribe. So, talk to me about why have the standards so high and what this season of waiting, why that was important. I mean, you said that it was to cultivate your stewardship and really flourish in being a child of God and learning about yourself. But what now are you leading with in having your standards where they are?
Yeah, I think that yeah, just using the last few years of singleness to really like get to know myself and the way God created me, the desires he's given me, the characteristics he's given me is like really helpful now that I'm stepping into dating. And then when it comes to standards, I don't know, that seems like such a weird word, but I mean, it is a thing. The things like the characteristics and qualities that I'm looking for, I think, one are in the Bible. It's like the Ephesians 5 man, right? Someone who loves like Christ loved the church, which is like tall orders, right? Like that's a big deal. But I think that's really important. And for me, when I'm looking for a partner and a husband, there has to be purpose behind that. I'm 41, I'm single, I'm not just looking to, throw all my morals and standards out the window and just take, the next best thing or whatever comes along. And I mean that like in the nicest, most humble way that, over the last 5 years, I've had a lot of time to pray about my husband and for my husband and have a lot of conversations privately with God about who he is and what he looks like and the characteristics that he does have. And I think that I just believe so strongly that he is out there, that until he comes along, and I know that there's purpose in us being together. And that all that to say, like, meaning that we can serve the Lord better together than we could apart. Like, we're gonna advance the kingdom of heaven together. Like, we're not just gonna get married and be together to say we have a boyfriend or girlfriend or, the ring or any of that. So that's truly my heart behind finding my husband. And I know that can look different for everyone, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
Proverbs 4:23 is guard your heart above all else, and I feel like that's your season. You're making sure that whomever comes along is serving that purpose with you. I love that.
I think that's a great verse. If I can add in
Yeah.
really quick, I do think it kind of like gets misconstrued a little bit sometimes. Like, when you're dating, like you have to make sure that you're not necessarily putting a wall up, right? Because like dating is very vulnerable. You have to be very transparent and honest and open. So, yes, you absolutely have to guard your heart and, in terms of standards, non negotiables, that kind of thing. And definitely praying for and using discernment, but also you do kinda have to, like, some people think that verse just means, like, "Nope, like, I've got this, like, stone wall up around my heart, like, it's gonna, take a lot to come crashing through that," and you do kinda, like, I don't think that's quite it. So that was just a little side note. It's an interesting verse and I love it, but yeah, definitely gotta be careful there.
Yeah, and you're right. You can't have a wall up because then you're not being vulnerable. So one of the other snippets from the Stephen Furtick in Elevation Worship was that dating is supposed to be a precursor to marriage. And in the snippet, he says, I think this is actually from 2024, but he said that modern day dating is moving towards divorce because all of those things that you just said aren't part of dating anymore. It's what feels good right now and not what's going to move us forward together for God's kingdom. So, where do you think the disconnect is in dating in today's world with apps?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think we're gonna need a second episode to get into all of that. But there's so many things, right? And, it can be confusing because the Bible really doesn't say a lot about dating specifically, right? So you kind of have to zoom out a little bit and just look at things like the heart of God and how much He loves us and does want to give us the desires of our heart, that we know that He created us to be in covenant relationship, that we know His word says that it's not good for man or us to be alone. But we really don't get a whole lot of like guidance from the Bible and from God on like actual dating, which sometimes we want it all laid out on a silver platter. Like, okay, first you're going to do this, then you're going to do this, then He comes along. And that would be great. But as believers, we know that's not typically how God operates. But in terms of dating, oh my gosh, so many things are different and there's so many layers to it, especially for me, right? Dating as a 41-year-old who's never been married and doesn't have kids, as a successful business owner, as a disciple and follower of Jesus in a technology app driven era. I mean, there's just literally so many layers to it. But I think for me, just the biggest thing that's helped me or like kept me kind of grounded too is just like mindset about it, right? So I really just have tried to come into dating with curiosity, right? I think that, it's kind of important maybe to define dating, and that can look different for everyone. There's not necessarily one right or wrong answer, but dating is really just getting to know people, right? And in my case, like getting to know other believers, like getting to know God's son. So I have this little saying that I try and use, just like, even if he's not the one, he's God's son. So, one, I just want to be curious. I want to hear his story. There's power in testimonies. And two, I definitely want to leave him better than I found him if he's not the one, right? Because who knows? He could end up being your best friend or my other friend's husband. You just never know, right? So, a little bit of a different approach, but that's kind of how I'm.
So, I know that we're going to talk about a coaching scenario, but are you obviously you're in your firm foundation, but how do you block out the noise with dating and swiping left and swiping right? Like, what do you do to keep your focus?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I am on the apps, like, you have to go where the people are, basically. You can certainly meet someone organically, at church, serving, there's plenty of opportunities out there, but I do find that it's really hard, even in, church settings, to interact with people. I think that there is some fear there on both sides, like, fear of rejection is a very big thing, just the fear of, like, even knowing, like, are they single? Like, yeah, maybe you make eye contact and maybe you're like, kinda like, "Okay, I think there's something there, I think there's something there," but then, for the man feeling confident to lead and approach, it can be scary for them, right? Like, because they don't even know if you're single, like, you can kinda, like, look for a ring, but if you don't see a ring, it's like, "Okay, do I say something?" You can second guess yourself, so I am on the apps, which is somewhat helpful because it's a dating app, so at least you're, hopefully both on there, the people on there are at least raising their hand saying, "Hey, I'm single and I'd like to date." Now you do have to be very careful on the apps because there's quite a variety of people who are looking for different things and have different definitions of what relationships look like. So this goes back to, yeah, guarding your heart and just using good discernment. But yeah, the apps can be interesting, but you know what? The pool is big. So I don't want to say that dating is a numbers game. Like, it's not a game, it's something I'm taking very seriously. But at the same time, they're not all going to be the one. There's only one husband out there. There's only one wife out there for you, and you're going to have to go on some dates and be rejected and kindly reject other people. Like, that's just part of the process. So I think mindset is so huge, and like, if you can know that and prepare for that going into it, you're just in a much better place. And it is hard because I don't think that we're taught a lot about this. I mean, I certainly wasn't, and that's, like, kind of one of the reasons, like, I took some time to really, like, study singleness and some things because I know so many amazing Christian women who are single, and I know so many amazing Christian men that are single, but there just seems to be this blockage as to, like, why we're not coming together, and I just kind of became fascinated with that. And you mentioned coaching. I'm a big believer in coaching, whether it's nutrition with Alec or, in business coaching, or you have a trainer at the gym. And so I was like, you know what? I'd like some guidance in this area. I think I'd like some other perspectives and
I
to
didn't know
hear
there was such a thing.
hear what's working and not's working. And, I didn't even really think about it either until I had stumbled across there was a shout out to Heart of Dating. They were doing a 3-day Find Your Person challenge, which basically was just on YouTube. It was like 3 nights. But what kind of drew me to it was they had some pretty big name preachers and speakers. So I was like, it's the middle of winter. I'm, sitting on my couch. Let's check this out. And then at the end of that, I felt really intrigued and moved, and that's when they offered this class, and I was like, "Wait, there's a class?" So, yeah, I did sign up for the class. It was like 15 or 16 weeks. There was a few holidays in there, but, pretty intensive class, live online, where you had access to their teachings, to a workbook, but also to, like, a live personal dating coach where you could ask questions and run scenarios by, and it was amazing, like, I could not recommend it highly enough to other people, and I mean, we started with healing and, backgrounds, family situations, attachment styles, and there's so many things that go into it, and kind of definitely, like, taking time to heal and make sure you're healthy and whole is a good place to start, really important. But then towards the end of the class, we did move into the practical, which was, yeah, you're not gonna meet your husband in your living room, you gotta get out there, you gotta get on some apps, and they actually, like, would give you some pointers on how to set up your profile, like, what men are looking for, what women are looking for, what kind of pictures. I mean,
Oh
I know
my
there's some
goodness.
viewers out there that can feel me. You're scrolling and you see these pictures, and I'm always like, "These poor guys, could someone help them and tell them, like, that just, like, what kind of pictures to put on there?" And so it was really practical and really helpful, and I just thought it was great. They also gave us a lot of scripts to use just around really everything, but from pacing, from moving things along to, how to set like healthy boundaries with people. It was just fantastic.
So, was this Christ focused or just dating in general?
Yeah, so it definitely was faith-based. So, yeah, there were over 200 people that signed up for this class. So also I think that like shares like the heart, like the singles community, I do think is a community that's overlooked a lot. You know, a lot of churches, we have like the 50s and up brunch and we have the married couples weekends, but there's just not a lot out there for singles. And like this also was just so eye opening that, like, oh my gosh, like over 200 people like raised their hand, made a pretty decent financial commitment to sign up to this class. So obviously they're serious and committed about it. Like, there's something here. There's something to this.
So you graduated.
I did graduate.
Are you is your title now like professional dater?
Not at all. I'm very much still figuring things out. We are like, they give you the practical stuff at the end, but then you have to get out there and apply it, right? So that's what I've been doing really for like the last 2 or 3 months now, is just kind of practicing what they preached. And it's really amazing that, like the scripts that they gave us, everything they taught us, it works. Like all of it works. It's really incredible. But the biggest thing for me, I'll say, like during the last few months and just actively dating, is I'm still learning about myself, right?
Yeah.
And it's just been, like, so amazing. I've had some really sweet moments with the Lord where He's, like, really nudging me and encouraged me into things that, like, maybe I wouldn't do in the past, or
Like
things
this podcast?
like this podcast, like finding my voice and not being, like, ashamed of being 41 and single, or ashamed of, the qualities and characteristics and values, like, that I'm looking for in a husband. So it's just been really great. It's been really great.
What a cool testament to your
Yeah.
faith and your firm foundation that that class found you. I also feel like there's so much pressure, especially on women, to feel like they're behind. And you just mentioned that, you're 41 and you're single and you're leaning into that now. But do you think that that has held you back a little bit?
I don't know if it's held me back, because, like, everything in God's timing, right? But I can definitely say and be vulnerable and share that I used to make marriage an idol. I mean, it was like the center of my being. It was like the next thing. All of my friends were getting married. It was like, okay, yeah, successful job, house, like all the things. But, everything's going great in my life. But where's my husband? And I just really, unfortunately, like I said, did make that an idol. And when I say an idol, just like, that became a priority in my life over seeking and serving God. I'm so not proud of that, but I'm human, and I can say that today. So, yeah, I think it's all in His timing, right? Like I had to figure that out. And now that I feel like I've completely surrendered, my husband, my relationship, what my future looks like, I mean, I am believing that He's out there and that I will have a family. But one thing I always say, like, which I go back to, most people know the song Jireh, right? Which we all sing on Sunday. And what does it say? It says, "You are enough." And so we sing that song on Sunday, and, like, He just really convicted me, like, "Okay, we're in there. You are enough." And then we walk out, and it's like, "Where's my husband? Where's this? Why isn't this?" And it's like, "Wait, is he really enough?" So, whether He brings me a husband or not, like, just truly living knowing that, like, God is enough, like, whether the husband comes along or enough, is just where I am. And it's taken a long time to get there. It's taken a lot of hard work and a lot of prayer and a lot of, like, personal time with the Lord, which has been great. But yeah, it really takes the pressure off, like you said. It really does.
I that moves me to my core because my biggest mistake was putting marriage as my priority. And I'm divorced. I'm happily married now, but I did that and it was a mistake. And I was not living purposefully. And God let me know quickly that that was the wrong path. And when you've been describing your last 5 years, thriving in your singleness, finding where God was leading your heart, it took my divorce and my breaking point to find that season for me
Yeah.
before I found my current husband. And I think, to your point of finding yourself and diving deep into your own personal alignment with God, the value in doing that and learning yourself before seeking and finding your partner is huge. And we have gotten away from that.
Yeah. And you're just saying the word seeking, like, takes me to Matthew 6:33, which is just like one of my core verses anyways. But even in dating, right? And it says, seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and then everything else will be added unto you. So I truly believe that, yeah, if you can just keep your eyes fixed on the Lord and serving Him, and loving his people well, that the rest does eventually just fall into place.
So we spend so much time asking, do they like me? Instead of asking, do they align with what God has for me? And you're really living that and embodying that.
It's
And
not easy.
yeah,
It's not easy.
but that's you're showing up consistently and trusting and praying. So, all right, it's time. So, what we are about to do,
Yes, time for what, Kendra?
we are going to see if we can find Emily a husband. So, back to the beginning of the podcast when Emily and I, well, before this podcast happened, when we were talking about what we were going to do on the podcast, I was thinking maybe we can find a few Christian single men that want to come on and learn about Emily and share a little bit about themselves and see if this can be a date and maybe Emily's future husband. So, for those of you that follow, I did make a post on Instagram. What were our qualifiers?
Has to love Jesus.
Service oriented
Yes. Servant's heart, tall, dark, and handsome.
with a passport.
And yes, has a passport.
Okay. So as the algorithms go, it had all the views. I had a few people from my hometown that are like my dad's friends reach out and say, when's the show? Can I come on? No. But I ended up texting everybody in my phone that graphic. And I have to go into this before we make the call because I truly feel like this is fate. So I had just signed a listing, just signed it. And I sent it to them and they said, oh my gosh, I have the perfect person.
To the listing agent? Who?
No, sorry, to me. They sent it to me. I
Okay.
signed the listing.
Okay.
So this was my clients. And they're like, we have the perfect guy. So I did end up getting a few candidates and for various reasons, not a good fit. So we have one gentleman that wants to meet you and we're going to do this over the phone and I'm going to ask you both some questions and we'll see at the end of it if you guys want to go on a date.
Could be a match. Let's see.
All right, so let's call him. Woo! Here we go. Maybe.
No pressure.
Watch, he's not going to answer.
Hello.
Hey there, it's Kendra.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
All right. Well, I am sitting here with Emily. Are you ready to answer some questions?
Ready as I'll ever be.
All right. Well, let's ask you a couple questions first because everybody on the podcast who have been listening to Emily and I for 40 minutes. So, what's your name? Tell us just a brief bit about yourself.
My name's Cody Bush. I've been a lineman for 8 years now, and I live in southeastern Ohio. I shoot bows and
Wait,
at the gym. It's the main thing.
you shoot bows as in you're a professional athlete?
I
Yeah.
yeah, it's my rookie year now.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. So, Emily, tell us a little bit tell Cody a little bit about you.
Hi, Cody. Thanks for coming on. Very brave of you. So I admire that already. My name's Emily. I'm 41. I'm friends with Kendra. This is my first podcast. I'm really excited to be talking to you and on the show today. I am a real estate agent. I've been selling real estate for 15 years and I love to travel.
Do you like to travel, Cody?
I travel quite often. Yeah, I'm always somewhere.
How far do you go for your archery competitions?
In about 3 weeks, I'll be in Louisiana.
Cool.
So
All right. So we're going to ask we as in me, I'm going to ask some deeper questions. Cody, I'm going to ask Emily first, and then I'll give you the same opportunity to answer the same question. Okay. Emily, how would your friends describe you? And do you agree?
Okay, this is a good one. And I have asked my friends like this question, lots of research in this dating season. My friends say that I'm loyal and sometimes like loyal to a fault, like super, super loyal. And I would agree with that. I think I'm a very loyal person.
Cody, you're up. How would your friends describe you? And do you agree?
oh man, there's more than one word, but I like to think my friends would describe me as like outgoing and driven and like focused at the same time. And I would definitely agree with that. I definitely, like you, I'm always outgoing, but I'm not afraid to help my friends out, but it's to a fault as well. Like sometimes it's not always the best. It's being a pickle. You're definitely right.
All right. Thanks, Cody. Emily, what is something you're working on or trying to improve?
Okay, I'm going to go with kind of like something fun. I'm actually trying to improve my golf skills right now. I am not a golfer at all. My goal is really just to learn how to like connect with the ball more, less swing and misses.
How fun.
Yeah.
Cody, what are you working on or trying to improve?
I'm working on my faith, actually. I'm like in the last few years been really trying to get better in that, grow in that area, learn more, and just truly get deeper into it.
Love that. Emily, what is your relationship history in one sentence?
Oh my
You can
gosh.
break the one sentence rule.
I'm like, this is like a tough one. I don't even know. Dumpster fire? No, nothing that bad. I don't want to scare you, Cody. Just like, I don't know, maybe like incomplete. Like it's been a journey, right? And hasn't worked out and here we are.
Cody, what is your relationship history in one sentence or more?
I thought of something kind of funny. I was like, oh, it's kind of like learning how to ride a bike. You're gonna fall down a few times before you figure it out.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
Very good. All right. Cody, it is time for Emily. She's going to ask you a few questions and then you get to do the same. Okay. So, Emily, take it over.
Okay. First question I'm wondering is what is one like character or quality that you're looking for in a future wife?
character quality. I don't know if I call it a character quality, but I definitely want someone that is religious. The faith is definitely important to me. How you I represent yourself, like values, I guess is a good way to put it. Like I need values to line up based on faith and stuff of that nature.
Great.
Commitment is is a big one, obviously.
Okay. Question number 2 is what is something you have learned from a past relationship?
I think I learned a lot about this is gonna come off the wrong way, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Like where I need to prioritize my time because I definitely in the past I have very goal oriented and driven towards my hobbies and certain things and work and whatnot. But I know I slacked in the past on, finding the sweet spot of making time for trying to make time for too many things and then don't make enough time for some things that are obviously higher up on my priority list or more important. And I've fallen short on that before. I definitely have learned a lot in that area.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. And third and final question. I know you're working on your faith, but do you have a favorite Bible verse or like a verse that like really resonates with you in this season of your life?
Don't right now. Like I have obviously I've read a bunch of the verses everyone says, but I haven't try not to be like the same as everybody else. I haven't
Yeah.
picked one that just really, really was kind of unique yet.
That's fair. I appreciate the honesty.
All right, Cody, it's your turn to ask Emily 3 questions.
He get his notebook
So
out.
what does your normal day look like? What's like a normal week? What's your schedule like? What do you like to get into?
Well, I think Kendra can attest to this. Every day and every week in real estate is like completely different. So there's not a lot of regularity, but I can tell you the things that are consistent. Is pretty much how I start my day every day. So that's always time with the Lord. So I always try and read my Bible for at least 20 to 30 minutes, like before I even look at my phone. And recently I've been having to like physically put it in another room just so it's not a distraction. Because I think we're all naturally drawn when we wake up, just grab the phone and start going. So really trying to start with like 20 or 30 minutes reading my Bible. Then I like to do some kind of physical activity. I am really into Pilates right now. So that's been like pretty much Pilates every day. Then I come home, eat something to get fueled up, and then the real estate craziness begins. And who knows where the day could go from there. So we have a lot of appointments, but there's a lot of like downtime in between appointments. So like I said, kind of all over the place. It is a blessing that we get to make our schedules, but we also work really hard. So, yeah.
I definitely understand that. All right. Another good one. What is a misconception people might have about you?
Ooh, that is a good one. I think something that I've heard a few times is that I'm intimidating, which is really surprising to me because, and Kendra's shaking her head. I know you can't see her, but I like pretty much always have a smile on my face. Like, I think I'm pretty kind and compassionate. But yeah, I've heard that from a few people. And I don't think it's like yet. At first I was like, well, like, do they think I'm mean or like, and I think it's more just that I am like, successful. And so maybe it's more in that line, but yeah, I have heard from a few people that they think I'm intimidating. I don't think I am. Kendra, I don't know if you want to chime in, but that is something that I have
I'm
heard.
not saying anything. I'm just kidding.
She's like, keep me out of this.
I'd say the least intimidating. I don't even think your photos, like your persona online, is intimidating.
Yeah.
All right, Cody, number 3. What do you got for us?
Number 3. So outside of work and Pilates, what is something else you do like for fun? Like what's a big hobby if you had to pick one thing?
If I had to pick one thing, it's definitely traveling. I mean, I will take any opportunity to travel I can get, especially like to places I haven't been before. And whether that's like a new place in Ohio or the United States or traveling abroad, like my passport is always ready to go. So I'm a huge traveler.
What about Louisiana?
I've never been. I've never been to Louisiana.
Right? Isn't that where you're going, Cody? Did I make up Louisiana?
So I'll be in North Carolina in a couple weeks. I'll be in Louisiana the weekend after. Technically I should be in Vegas this weekend, but I'm not. I just got back from Georgia last weekend and Virginia the weekend before.
Okay, so you're a traveler. One final question. Do you have a passport?
I actually don't have a passport.
Okay. It's okay. We can fix that. We can change that.
Oh my goodness. All right, kids. Well, we have reached the time in the show where we just have to decide if we're going on a date or not. So, Cody, I'm going to mute you for a moment so I can talk to Miss Emily. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Are we going on a date?
I would love to go on a date.
Cody, I'm going to mute Emily. Would you want to try to go on a date with Emily?
Yeah, I'm interested.
All right, guys, we're going on a date.
We have a match.
Yeah. Okay, so Cody, I will get back with you in the particulars after we are done filming. But thank you so much for literally being vulnerable, opening your heart, and, just letting God do his work, because that's what this was today.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Especially, I was nervous, I won't lie.
I was a little nervous too, don't worry. It's exciting.
Cody, do you want to give a universal message out to your friends that set you up on this show?
I love you guys. They always have my back. They're always in my corner. So.
All right, Cody, thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep, we'll see you.
Okay, bye. My goodness. Okay, that was so fun. Okay.
I'm great.
So there's going to be a date. We may or may not let you know how it goes.
Oh, I think there definitely needs to be like a follow-up. The people want to know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's going to be a follow-up. I don't know what the follow-up will be, but there will definitely, we'll definitely keep you updated.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. This is all God's grace. And you've got to come back because we have to see if we found Emily a husband. But I've been itching to do this. I'm going to show her a picture of Cody. So stay tuned.
Bye.